Who knows? Script
It is
reading knows nothing.
GAA, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah,
That's true.
it always
That's true.
is.
Mm-hmm.
Or
G-A-N-A-N.
of that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Andy, Anais. It's all right, Gerald. We're being very dumb. We
You
are
also
also
have a game in
live.
it. Oh, but don't say
Are
it
we?
right away.
Oh,
We've been
we're
live
not-
for a while. We've been live for a
we
minute.
know. 27 milliseconds. Yeah. We're just playing to the massive audience, giving them a bit of,
Behind the
backstage
scenes.
Yeah,
banter.
they deserve it.
Yeah. Okay, I suppose I better do this, hadn't I? This is Literary Roadhouse. One short story once a week. My name's Gerald.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Anais.
And this
All
week, we're reading a very serious story. We've been reading Bitter Grounds by Neil Gaiman. If you haven't read it, pause the podcast, go and read it. It's about over 7,000 words. And then come back and see what we make of it. We follow the first person narrator as he leaves his previous life behind. Get it? Behind to head south. On the way, he stops at a motel and meets Jackson Anderson, a great name, an anthropology professor on his way to New Orleans to deliver a lecture about Haitian coffee girls who may or may not be zombies. He gave Anderton a lift to his broken down car, where a tow truck was waiting. But Anderton had left his wallet behind in the hotel. Uh-oh. Our hero went back to fetch it. But by the time he returned back to the car, Anderton had gone, and his briefcase was ransacked. So our hero proceeds to New Orleans using Anderton's identity and meets Campbell Lack, who is also at the academic conference. He has some fun, but not with Jello shots. Oh, you see, I ruined the joke now.
I haven't
Mhm.
had fun with Jello shorts.
Have you not had fun? Does such a thing exist?
They're my favorite shorts.
Are they?
Yeah.
They don't exist.
Shorts or shots?
I mean, sorry,
Shorts.
Andrew.
When I'm serious.
Yeah, serious.
Serious.
He
person.
has some fun, but not with Jello shots, and becomes a zombie, maybe. Or has he always been a zombie? And that's it.
That's it.
I like the story, but I don't understand it. So there you go.
Yeah, I felt like this story kept like earning my goodwill. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. What are we gonna do? And then like squandered it meaninglessly on a nothing bit at the end of each vignette. Like, okay. It's like does something else. It's like, oh yeah, oh cool, that's interesting. The girls with the ribbons, like, what are we gonna do with this? It's like I don't know, like some stuff.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I thought about the story. On my first read through, I also had a bit of like I don't know what just happened. And then on my second read through, and a bit more careful and thinking, blah blah blah. Then things started to emerge, which is fun. The ending, though, I still feel like it felt fast, but it's okay. Yeah, but it was fine. Anyway, I guess that's overall impressions. Anything else you guys want to add to your overall impressions, Gerald? Anything you want to say?
No, he said, starting to talk. Yes, actually. I enjoyed the reading of it. I see what Andy's getting at, that there's some really good things introduced, and this whole sort of idea of we don't know what he is he alive, is he not alive? There's the sort of little clues, but are they real clues or false clues, and that sort of stuff. So it's sort of quite interesting, and yet it seems as though we're sort of stepping into and out of a sort of almost like a post-apocalyptic environment. Like, he's getting all his money out, so he's expecting not to be able to do that or something. I don't know, or maybe he's giving up his life, and I don't understand it. I think it's good, but I don't understand it.
Okay, Andy.
Sorry.
You don't have to apologize, Andy.
Yeah, I liked reading it most of the way through with a couple like pretty severe dips near the end of each like chapter or vignette or like piece, whatever you want to call the separators, right? It's like, all right, here's this guy running away from his whole life on a whim, and he meets this other academic dude, and coffee, and like parsing the radio together in an interesting way. Oh, that's neat. I'm with you. And then the guy like got grabbed in the woods, and I'm going to assume his identity. Like the end bit of each one was like, that's weird. And it's weird in a way that was like very abrupt and did not really pay off any of the cool stuff that got set up earlier. And each time it was like that, like the two cool ribbon girls at the conference who we met and we're gonna like do voodoo stuff and like I don't know, and then we got separated in the crowd, so I went back to the hotel. And I'm like, all right, that's interesting. I don't know, but like I enjoyed most of it by volume, but I hated each of the endings. So I think this Neil guy, if he keeps at it, he might be a good writer one day.
Do you think? Yeah. Shows promise.
Yeah. It's funny because I do like Neil Gaiman, but I feel like he has a very particular like role as a writer in my head. And this one actually, for me, broke him out of that role a little bit, which was different. Like this wasn't, it had all the Gaiman-y things in it that you would expect, but there was something it was doing with like, he sublimated the theme a lot more than he normally does. You normally don't need to dig, like
Right.
the joy of his work isn't the excavation. It's like the fun characters, the cool, the well developed plot, right? It's like that kind of stuff where like this one, the characters aren't as developed as normal. No, I wouldn't say as a Gaiman story normally is. That's not true because a lot of his characters also just kind of like full role. I would say they weren't as they weren't outlined in like a Sharpie. Like normally, like his characters are very much like this is this character. You must know this, whether or not they're deeply developed or they're just filling a role. You know what it is. And here, there's like a fuzziness there, which I found surprising.
Yeah,
So
everyone's really fuzzy.
Yeah, everyone's really fuzzy, which normally he does not give you fuzzy characters. And normally his themes are fairly surface. You don't have to dig that deep, right? Which is not a knock on it. Like he's doing something else. But this one, you did have to dig a little deeper. And the reason I say I'm even talking about this is because the first time I read this, I read it late at night and I was like half asleep. I'm like, it's fine, it's Gaiman. I don't have to think that hard. I was like, God damn it. I guess I do. Which is, again, not a knock on Gaiman. I read a lot of his stuff, but like, you know, normally it's not a work at it kind of story. But so when I finally did work at this story, one of the things that I thought was kind of cool was there's all the zombie stuff, but there's also just this idea of identity all the time, coming and going. The narrator's identity keeps sort of changing throughout the story. And at the very beginning, when he first starts driving, he throws his cell phone out the window and he's like, oh, I wonder when they pick it up. Like he had a thought that wouldn't have occurred to me, which is like somebody's going to pick up this phone and suddenly take on my identity, which is a weird conclusion to draw from throwing your phone out a window. And then he does that, right? Like he does that later. When he finds this guy's briefcase, he's like, I guess I'm just going to go be Jackson Anderton now. He's like mildly resistant. He like acts like circumstances are forcing him there. Like, well, there's no hotel rooms. And I came to New Orleans coincidentally, I guess. And there's no hotel rooms. So I guess I'm going to have to impersonate him. I have no choice, right? He just has to impersonate people, or this guy. And also the woman he sleeps with in the night becomes the woman with the red hair at one point, the red ribbon. So like there's this shifting identity thing happening. And then there's the story of the kid who went from LA to New Orleans, got really into like the hoodoo world, and then then he thinks he's like the Hoodoo King, and he has all these other like runaways who think he's the best, and then he gets addicted to the zombie dust, and now he's at the bottom of a totem pole of like a 3-man cult. Okay, there's just all these strange little identity shifts throughout the story, which I thought was really interesting. I don't know what to make of it, but it was like a motif.
I think that's the thing. That I think what you're saying, something you said which sort of triggered something in me is that just when you sort of get to grips with it, he changes it. He takes what you think you understand about the story, and takes that away, and it's he does it so well that it's you don't have, because unless a writer who is as good as he is, you would just give up. I can't get to what's going on. But because he's such a good writer, he sucks you into the characters and the situation, dropping little hints about what you think is going on, and then he pulls a rug from under you and then changes things. So I sort of quite like that, even though it's quite something. Yes, it's quite something. I don't know.
It is quite something.
It is quite something. Yes. Frustrating, that's the word.
Yep.
Whatever.
Mhm.
Like when you can't think of a word. It's frustrating.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah.
I also feel like a lot of the clues are in the Zora Neale Hurston quotes, right? Like, there's one of the very first ones is, this is the way zombies are spoken of. They are bodies without souls, the living dead. Once they were dead, and after that, they were called back to life again. So at the very beginning, right, the narrator tells you he's dead. He's basically undead, right? He's neither living nor dead, which is what a zombie is. And then there's also in the story of the Haitian coffee selling girls, the fact that once their creator, once they're they also disappear at some point. And I think that's the ending. It's he eventually, as a zombie, can't just be here forever being a zombie. He has to go. He needs to move on. So there's this sort of sense of he's a zombie. He's taken on these other identities. Which in other zombie lore made me think of eating the brain, or when somebody gets zombified, they sometimes still have a glimmer of their old self sometimes, but that's not the zombie lore that's being presented as truth in this one. Here it's talking about the serpent and the rainbow, which I looked it up, and that's a zombie dust Haitian hoodoo zombie story. So it's very much a very clear.
Not seen the serpent and the rainbow?
No. All right. But yeah, for listeners, Andrew is making faces at me. Yeah. So it made me think of other zombie, the identity thing made me think of other zombie stories more so than the ones that he was presenting as the definitive true zombie stories for this story. But yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. I think if you're going to write a zombie story, then you don't make it a zombie story like every other zombie story. I think it's interesting to do something slightly different, to do something that subverts your understanding of what the story is. So I think that's very clever. So you're always a bit like the character. He sort of doesn't really understand what his role is. It's like he doesn't feel any. He just feels a desire or a need to go south and leave everything behind. And I think as a reader, we read the story and we're on that sort of the edge of not quite understanding and not quite getting the story, and you see a little bit and then oh no, that's not true, or is it? So it keeps us on the edge of our seats in that way, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's also what was losing me though. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just too dumb to pick it up, or maybe I found it mildly infuriating. Like, yeah, okay, that's an interesting artistic choice, but I don't like reading it.
He
It
sort
seems
of
like it's a lot of like setups with no payoffs, and at some point I'm like, "Arr." Yeah, okay, that was
Yeah.
real clever, but like, pay something off.
Yeah, I'd say there was one thing where I sort of see what you're saying, where like for example, the red Honda Accord that gets the smashed in back window and the doors open and the guy disappeared.
Yeah,
Okay, so are we in a real zombie apocalypse? Did he get zombified? Like, that's what I'm thinking. Did
right.
that
But like,
happen?
nope, that doesn't matter. We're never going
Doesn't
back to that
matter.
again.
No.
Yeah. Or like Campbell disappears.
Yep.
He's disappeared. And here's
He
the
went
thing.
with the other ribbon girl.
And then the one with the red ribbon says she doesn't have a sister.
Yep.
So is white ribbon girl a ghost? Did he get ghosted?
Doesn't matter. We're never going
Doesn't
back
matter.
to that again.
Doesn't matter.
Or does any of this even exist? So even to post the question,
Yeah.
where did they go to, is irrelevant because none of it exists other than in his mind, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Man. Well, to that was a thought that I had that I don't think is supported in the text at all. But the reason I thought of it was because he throws his cell phone out and then he runs into a guy who is using the motel phone to call a cab instead of his own cell phone. So I was like, wait a minute. Is
Right.
he
We're in cell phone times.
right? We're in cell phone times, but this guy doesn't have a cell phone and you threw out your cell phone. So I thought there might be something there. And also when Campbell, the last time we see Campbell, the narrator is in pursuit of him and gets washed up in a crowd. And I'm like, so the last thing we saw was this guy following that guy, really, if you think about it. And then Campbell disappears and doesn't even show up for his own presentation. So there's a part of me that's like, oh, okay, it's the big twist. Like he's killing these people. He's like blacking out, but it's not super supportive because you would need to signal that more than I threw a cell phone out the window. So it's not really supportive, but that would have been cool. Yeah.
So is this a good story or not?
Yeah.
I don't know. I still mostly liked it. There was also randomly that sex theme where it was like that quote where it's like when you're having sex, it's like you're giving a piece of yourself away and he wishes that you. Okay. There's a lot of people giving pieces, I guess. And if you sort of torture it that way, but that part didn't really resonate as hard as it should. Or could, I guess. It felt mostly about identity and loss and, this sort of like a state of being undead.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be more about coffee, honestly.
There's quite a bit of coffee going on. Everything is bland except coffee.
There's some coffee going on.
Yeah.
But everything he eats is bland. The best gumbo in New Orleans, bland.
Bland.
Well, it would be if you're a zombie.
Mm-hmm. That's what I thought. I'm like, this man's definitely a zombie and he's zombified. Right? Especially because the guy who he gives a ride to, Jackson, he's like, this is going to be one of those stories about where, like, I tell people about the Good Samaritan who drove me around and they're like, he's been dead for 10 years. And it's like, or he's a zombie and he ate you. That could also be, right? That's the classic, you got hitchhiked.
Right.
I mean, I think the traditional idea of being a zombie and that you're sort of staggering around going, oh, and trying to eat people is less attractive than this guy who's driving around and not having jello shots and having fun. I wouldn't mind that sort of idea of zombification. It's much nicer. Because he doesn't eat people, does he?
Well, he might.
Well, maybe he's just practicing. Maybe he's going through a little, first few stages of zombification.
He definitely drinks coffee.
That's good. Coffee's good. I finished mine. Oh dear.
Yeah, I liked it more than I guess I can. I don't know why. The sort of loose ends don't bother me as much. He's doing something else. It surprised me because normally Gaiman would be like, you remember that thing that I did like a little while ago? Ha ha!
Yeah,
Like,
I'm gonna pay that off now.
Gotta pay it off. Remember the even like the kind of tropey like radio thing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm.
Like I'm like, okay, this is zombie vibes.
Yes.
Nope.
I mean, he is a zombie. The narrator is a zombie of a sort. That part's there.
Yep.
But not the kind that smashes windows and. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's. Yeah.
Different zombies.
Yeah, because I was expecting Anise to say, "No, aha! What you missed was this and this and this," and explain everything, and we'd go, "Ah, now we understand." So it's kind of good to know that there is no clear explanation.
Nope. The most like sublimated thing was the identity thing. He just keeps changing his identity, and he the one kind of payoff thematically is that weird thing about I threw my cell phone out the window. I wonder, when they find it and they take on my life, like, why do you think that's what's going to happen? That I guess pays off because that's how he operates, I guess. So,
I guess.
And Campbell also changes his identity, right? He doesn't want to go around telling women he's an academic, so he tells them that he works in for a record label and he discovered Oasis.
Yeah, because he's a Brit that you can be racist towards.
Yep,
that's true.
That's allowed, of course. So and teaches people how to speak Brit.
That's right.
Yeah, but then that's sort of isn't that pretty normal for conferences that you pretend you're somebody else?
Well, so they're all zombies of a sort.
Maybe. Well, the whole environment, the setting is a zombie setting, isn't it? I don't know. I don't know if there's anything that belongs in our world, because they say all the people that he's, because I just think he's imagining. I think he's doing this inside his head. He's imagining this road trip down south and all this sort of stuff. So he doesn't. There's no sort of response that we would recognize from a real world component of this setting.
What do you mean? Yeah. Like everyone he interacts with is weird in some way?
Well, everyone he interacts with him. So there is no. Everyone sort of behaves normally in their interactions with people, more or less, and talks to them, and so there's no sort of, I suppose people disappear, don't they? So maybe that's a. Well, I think that's more his imagination that just stops creating them. I don't know.
I mean, the people disappearing might also be the theme of loss that isn't. Because in the very beginning, when he's saying I'm dead, and sometimes I call her and I let it ring once or twice and then I hang up. Like clearly there's some like breakup or like some loss here, or maybe someone who died. I don't know. So then he keeps sort of like losing people throughout the story, but it's not people he had deep bonds with. So it doesn't quite feel the same. It's just this sense of people disappear from your life. And then he disappears from life.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I understood it better.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not afraid to say it, but I am going to hedge a little.
Go on. Hedge away.
Maybe if the story was better, you would understand it. Maybe understanding of a story is one of the things a good story conveys. Maybe that's actually a fault.
I don't know.
We're not ignorant readers. If you got a weird, tortured, convoluted thing, maybe it's bad.
Not everything's tortured and convoluted, right? The zombie theme is strong and obvious. The identity thing throughout the entire story. There's a lot of people shifting identities. Even Zora and Zelda, very briefly. The lost thing is there. The sex one, I don't quite fully grasp, but okay.
Well, that's just to sell tickets. That's just
That's
get
to
butts
sell
in the
tickets?
seats. Yeah,
Gotta get butts in seats. Yeah, gotta give the people what they want.
Sexy bits, isn't it?
You gotta let them know it was 2 of the 3 condoms in 2 hours is very important.
Yep. It's very important.
Tell them no. Which is fine, right? Like that's part of the ride. We're having a good time. It's fine. Like I'm not knocking it. Just it was a pretty long quote for something that I'm like, okay, sure. unless it goes back to the lost thing, and the woman that he lost was a lover, and he had given pieces of himself until being alone is intolerable, and that's the lost thing, right? Then that's if you tie those 2 things together, then it's there because he wakes up the next day and there's no evidence anyone was there but him.
Is my point.
What?
Neil didn't tie them together.
He might
He's
have.
asking us to maybe tie these together.
Yeah, but we have fun doing that. That's the show.
Yeah, that's our show. But like, I have fun doing a weird podcast, but not everyone's doing a weird podcast. Some people are just reading short stories. And if they don't go on to a weird podcast and talk about it for 30 minutes afterwards, maybe that's the story's fault. Maybe the story should have been better.
Yeah, but as the kids like to say, the vibes of reading the story is still enjoyable for the most part. It's got
Yeah,
good vibes.
and that's true.
Yeah. So like you don't read this and then regret the time you spent. So that's already successful.
Well, don't tell me what I regret.
You regret it?
I can regret a lot of things. I can
Okay, but do you regret
love. I've got awesome powers of regret.
Okay.
Catholic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I just connected the sex and loss one, so that's part of it.
Okay.
Yeah. He woke up the next day alone. Waking up alone, starts to being alone feels intolerable. That's part of the quote. That's the loss.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I like this story like 80%.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad, but like the 20% wrinkles at me.
Yeah.
If there was a story I liked 60%, I might actually enjoy that experience more. Right? It's like a piece of sand in my pudding.
60% of statistics are made up. Okay. On the fly.
Piece of sand in your pudding.
I said pudding so that Gerald would get the reference.
Thank you. Yes, that's
you.
very kind. You're being nice to me now. Being nice and all that.
Okay. So I think we might be ready to. Oh wait, did Anderton and Campbell definitely die, or did it just get? What happened to Anderton and Campbell?
Yeah, they're super dead, right? Like they got zombied and ghosted. Like that's.
I don't know.
Who knows?
You know what?
Who
Maybe
cares?
Anderton wasn't even in a zombie story yet. He could have just gotten like Hookman in the woods killed. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in their lives.
Right. I don't know how you left.
I mean, he's definitely dead, but like, right? He could have gotten.
Yeah. It's sort of
go.
I think so many things about the story of are so what sort of thing. You know, is he dead or is he not dead? Don't know. Don't really care. It's not important. Sort of thing. It's and
what's
it keeps
important
happening.
Is that we steal his academic credentials.
Yeah. He's got to get them from somewhere.
There were good jokes about how to present a paper.
Right.
That was very good.
And then they paid off those jokes, which
yeah.
Totally worked.
Like I like that he went and presented the paper.
Yeah. And again, he's like, well, I want to say bye to Campbell, so I guess I have to present this paper because you'll probably be in the audience. So just okay. Yes. Everything is like the flimsiest reason to continue going down this path. And then when the woman, I don't know if it's Margaret or Margarine, there was like, I don't know if there was typos throughout this story. Yeah. So I don't know when it was a typo or not, but when she starts to suspect a tiny bit and he's like, maybe she'll call the cops. And it's like, you definitely want to get caught, but like no part of him is like, time to leave. Yeah. He's like, I'm gonna go on a dinner date tonight. That's what I'm gonna do while being suspected.
Right.
Yes, because that's what you do. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
So are we ready to rate?
I'm not going to go first.
I'll go first. 4.5.
I think I'm going to give it a 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really don't know. Does it matter if I don't give a score?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I'll give a zombie score. it doesn't exist, or does exist? Who knows? I'll give it. I don't know. Sorry, I'm being all blooming attention seeking now, aren't I? Look at me. I can't decide. I'm going to give it.
Camera pointed at you.
Yeah. Oh my God. So there is. Oh, look at that. I should take that up. Stop it looking at me. I'm going to give it. Oh God Almighty.
Keep milking it. This is good.
Yeah. Thank you. Good content, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm going to. Really.
This is going to be like our thumbnail for the show.
I'm going to give it a 5 because
Nice.
I don't think it matters that the things aren't resolved and we don't really understand what's going on. I think that's part of it.
I think you're right.
I mean, as you were sitting there struggling with this in an overly dramatic fashion.
Yes, it was. Yes.
I was like, wow, I've never seen Gerald struggle this much. So, like,
No.
maybe there's something to that.
I had come in at a 5 and you guys brought me down to a 4.5.
In fact, I'm changing mine to a 3.
God damn it.
You did that just to spite me, didn't you? Just to drag the overall score down. Well, I'm making it a 6 now. No, it's a 5. It's a 5, I think.
I'm gonna keep mine a 4.
Yeah.
I'll keep mine at 4.5. I had come in with a 5, but then you guys brought me down. You harshed my 5.
Yeah, because I would have given a smaller, a lower figure had I been. Had someone told me what it was all about, and I thought, oh,
I did
so I
though.
didn't get it. Well,
I found many themes supported in
Yeah. But not
Yeah,
what the
there's many
story's
themes,
about.
but what's it all about?
Yeah, what's the story about? What's the story?
Okay.
It's not story is not theme.
It's about this guy who is a zombie finally dying.
Okay.
Not as much coffee as I would have thought.
No.
But also
Good
not
amount
no
of coffee.
coffee.
Right. Yeah.
You had coffee at the diner.
Yeah. They
What's
never
your favorite
quite
part?
made the coffee pun land, though, right? Like bitter grounds. I know what it means on the coffee side, and the other side is just sort of vaguely implied, like uneasy resting ground. Zombies are buried in the ground, dirt ground, but they don't never actually connected the pun.
The everyday is freshly ground that gets repeated twice. It's
Yeah.
repeated on the radio and then
But those
again
are
at
both-
the end.
Those are both coffee.
Right. What? But the first time it's a coffee ad, and the
Mhm.
second time he's talking to the coffee
Right. He's
girl,
talking to the coffee girl.
and he's like, "It's okay. Every day is freshly ground." So there is supposed to be something there, but you're right. It doesn't quite land fully.
Yeah.
Mm.
But like it's like I'm looking at all the elements of a pun here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all there.
laid out on a table, not assembled.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
The girl was also
Honestly, if the
unimpressed
pun had
because
paid off, I probably
her
would've given
expression
it a
didn't change, but she nodded. So
And,
she agrees
and,
with you.
and
Yeah.
we have been talking about this thing for 37 minutes now, which is something, I think.
Yep.
I
No, it's
know
not
we did.
nothing.
Yeah, it's not nothing. And I know we had a little bit of introduction, blah blah, at the start, but we've been going a good 30 minutes on this. So yeah. So that's a sign of a good story, surely.
Well, this is why this Neil guy keeps getting work. Is it's like, well, he's doing something.
Yeah. Oh, you've heard of him before, have you? Okay.
They
Awesome.
call him Neely G.
Nearly. They don't call him Nearly G. Right, outro time.
No, we need to figure out next week's story. Andy,
Oh, do we?
Andrew.
Oh, I don't know
Yes,
how this
Andrew.
thing
I know that.
works.
That's my name is Andrew.
Yeah.
And
this
next
is-
week we're reading a story, and its title is Spirochete by Annika Schwab.
Okay. But before you go, make up a new identity for yourself in our Facebook discussion group, the Literary Roadhouse Readers. And as Zora Neale Hurston once definitely wrote about podcast host zombies, she says that podcast zombies every week worm into your ear and repeat the chilling phrase, leave a review on iTunes, and support our podcast on patreon.com/literary roadhouse. Every bit helps. As always, share this podcast with the hoodoo cultists in your life. Until next time, read a good story.
Very good. Very good outro.